To begin using the tool, the first is to open the tool right here, push the button New Brush, and choose a path and a name for the brush. Right, and now we have to add prefabs here. For example, these rocks, and there it is. At this point, we can start painting over the map. In this corner of the scene view, you have the controls of the tool. You can hide the panel if you want. You can paint normally. You can erase with the shift pushed. You can decrease the density of the eraser. With control, you can physically drop objects over the scenes to achieve natural and nice looking scattering. You can make some funny stuff, maybe. No, too little. Like this. Okay. If you want to leave it this way, you should push again over the brush. So now the simulation won't simulate anymore when you push control. And you can, with the precision place, pushing control and shift, you can place precisely where you want, facing where you want, and with the size that you want. Right, like this. And with the caps lock key, you can enable or disable the tool, so you can place something manually if you need, and still inside the tool. Paint settings. We have a layer mask in order to avoid certain objects. We have the brush size, which is the area over you are going to paint. You have density, which is how many objects do you want in a single shot. You have the spacing, which is every how many pixels in screen space do you want a shot. For example, 40 is a very short distance. If you increase it, you have more separated shots. See? It's a similar behavior as the brushes from Photoshop. With the option Align to Surface, you can make the objects to be aligned to the surfaces. With the option of slope bias, you can avoid painting on slopes. With a value of 90, you will paint everywhere, and if you decrease this value, you will avoid slopes, as you can see. The scale variation is easy to understand. It will make some variety in the scale of the objects. Right. With Align to Stroke, we can make the placed objects to face the direction of the stroke. For example, this. If we choose other angle, it will face with the other angle. The rotation variation is similar to the scale variation, but it will make variations on the rotation in the axis you want. Usually you are going to want to variate only the I axis for achieve this kind of pattern. With the offset variation, you can displace in local space the placement of an object. This is mostly useful for vary a little bit the objects, so the bottom of the object is not visible. You see, it's a little bit underground. This is helpful when you have slopes in your map. And with the vertex color variation, you can add color variety to your objects. For example, this with a gradient, you will have different colors for the object, adding no textures at all. Have in mind that if you don't bake all these objects, each one of them will have its own mesh. Okay, everyone is a single mesh that takes some memory. So if you're going to use this feature, it's a good idea to bake the objects you place. Actually, when you push the button, you have a warning here. And by last, we have the physical drop height. And this is the height from you are going to drop the objects when you use the physical drop. If you put here something higher, they will fall from high. And the gravity, you can modify this value, so the gravity will go wherever you go. When you resume the simulation with the control, they are going to go to the sky. Let's take a look over the objects column. First of all, you have here a little button that will highlight the source prefab of the object. You have also density, so you will have, let's remove this option first. So you will have more objects of the type that has more density. You have the solo mode, so you only are going to paint that object, and you have options here. These options are the same of the setting columns, and the object is going to behave according to its own settings, and it will ignore the main settings. Okay, now you have this cactus is now following this rule. It's aligned to the surface in the x-axis, and the other one is following this rule. Other settings, the easier settings are group by object, which is if you paint some rocks, all of them will be grouped under this group with the name of the brush. But if you check this option, they will be grouped in subgroups with the name of the object. So if you want to keep it more ordered, you can use this option. And the make objects static, if you have this check, the objects that you place will be static if you want it, and it's easier for you only checking this option. Now let's take a look over the bake mode. When you push it, it will warn you that you want to be able to add or remove objects after the bake. Okay, if you hit accept, it will prepare the material and the textures for the baking. It takes a little time. Okay, it has ended, and it has created a material and several textures baked with the from this source, okay, from the source of the original prefabs. Now we have this button here that will bake all we have placed in a single mesh. Right? Now all these rocks are a single mesh. This is very useful for reducing the object count and make the performance better. Also, we have the generate like map UVs. If we check it, the created objects, the created meshes, are going to have UVs for light mapping purposes. And if we hit here, the UVs are going to be based on the existing UV2 channel if you have created it in your 3D application.